Yeah, we're getting the whole family up to speed. My daughter is on her first big girl bike with multiple gears, and I think Marie, my wife, was getting a little jealous and she was looking for something a little nicer to ride on the road too. The folks at Velotric are sponsoring this video to talk about the different classes of e-bikes and to show off the new features on their Thunder One ST road bike. Fair warning, this video is a little ridiculous. This was me last week and the weather has already shifted up enough that I'm gonna be roasting in a t-shirt and shorts. But I did listen to some of your previous comments and I'm now using much nicer shorts that have zippers for pockets. I've done a few other e-bike videos on this channel, most recently spending some time with the Velotric Nomad and their Discover, their other road bike and fat tire bike. And both of those other Velotrics were high step models, so they were just a little too tall for Marie to comfortably ride.
The last time I owned my own road bike was probably high school. I'm trying to remember if I had it in college.
Then you got a car.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a little short. She's a little petite. But more than just the frame of the bike, it can be a little intimidating the first time you really try to ride a Class 2 e-bike and you see all these extra buttons and controls. I've taken a few friends out for rides, even my buddy TK Bay, and I always have to go through sort of an educational first experience on a Class 2 e-bike, kind of walking them around the different features and how to get up to speed safely. This is my infomercial hand acting right now. If only there were a more streamlined way to e-bike. In previous videos, we've talked about Class 2 bikes. Those bikes have a motor in the rear hub, just like this one, and when you push the pedal, the motor assists your pedaling and it gets you going a little bit faster, but a Class 2 e-bike will also have a standalone throttle. So you don't have to be pedaling, you can push a trigger with your thumb, just like on a motorcycle, and the bike will go all on its own. The Thunder One ST here is a Class 1 e-bike. This bike still has the same motor-assisted top speed as the Discover and the Nomad. It can get up to around 20 miles an hour as you're pedaling. But the controls here are way simpler. There is no throttle on the handlebars here. It's only pedal assistance. One of the only controls that you'll see that looks different from a regular non-electric bicycle are these little motor toggles here where you can increase or decrease the amount of power going from the motor every time you pedal. You've got a button here to turn it on, check the battery, you can control the motor output, but the rest of this is so much more streamlined and it operates just kind of like a regular bicycle with additional gears. The tech side is one part for easier operation, but a major focus is just streamlining the look of this bike. I love calling it a stealth e-bike, that there are fewer clues that there's something more gadgety going on. The battery is in this column right here. It doesn't detach like the Nomad or the Discover battery. The cabling is a lot tighter. It's integrated into the frame. It's a little cleaner. It just looks more like a regular road bike. The motor here on the Thunder One ST is a little smaller than the Velotrics that I took out on my previous road tests. We're talking a 350 watt motor, pedal assist, and with that pedal assistance, the battery is rated for around 52 miles of range. It's a smaller motor, but there's still plenty of pep. I really didn't have any issues getting up and down the hills in my neighborhood, which can be a bit challenging for some of the smaller e-bikes and also some of the scooters that I've tried road testing too. I kind of get that 52-mile range because there's no throttle. I'm not just running the bike all on its own. I'm always contributing to the locomotion of the bike by pedaling. But that 52-mile range is also likely built on fairly conservative estimates. If you're constantly in like level 5 tier power, constantly gunning the motor and really doing a bunch of hill climbs, you're probably not going to get 52 miles out of a single charge. I dig it because I'm adding just a little bit of oomph for when I'm going uphill, but then other than that, it behaves very much like a standard 8-speed bicycle. But the awesome part, that other consideration why I'm not too upset about stepping down to a smaller motor, I mean, I'm always about more power. My Nomad, that fat tire that I love tooling around with, that's a whopping 73-pound frame. That is a very difficult bike to maneuver and to pick up and carry. My wife has a hard time just walking it.
I didn't like riding the other e-bike we had because it was heavy. In general, it always felt like once I got going, it was good, but stopping and starting was very difficult.
We can step down to a smaller motor here because the Thunder One ST is less than half the curb weight of my Nomad fat tire. This is a bike that I can almost curl with one arm if I can get the balance on it right.
This bike is fantastic. It's light. It doesn't feel like a heavy e-bike, which has been a barrier for me anyway, and wanting to have one. Locking it up, I have to lift it to get into the space that we lock it into, and there's no issues whatsoever. I don't need extra help at all with doing that.
Getting up to 20 miles an hour on a lightweight bike can be kind of spooky. That's pretty quick, so I'm always grateful for these really grippy disc brakes. All of the reflectors are included too when you're setting it up, but Velotric also includes an LED headlamp. There's a standalone button, control that front light, and then they do include a rear light, but it's not a brake light. Cars can see you, but it's not tied to your braking behavior. And of course, the bike ships with a full toolkit, get you up and running really quickly. I've built a few of these now, so my experience has helped. I can build one of these pretty quick. But even if this were your first experience, the fact that it's a little more streamlined, we don't have to worry about the cabling and the setup for the display, I would estimate around an hour for your first bike build. You know, set aside that much time, lay out the tools, read the instructions, but you should be up and riding pretty quick. Same thing that I've said on the previous Velotric videos that we've shot. The area that I would spend a little bit more time is just making sure you're calibrating that front disc brake. Once you slide the tire on and you have the disc in between the brake pads, you want to spend a little time just kind of adjusting those pads to make sure you do have the stopping power that you want and that brake pad isn't scraping against the disc. As mentioned, the Thunder One ST does not have a display like the Nomad or the Discover. So the battery is down here in the lower part of the frame, and on the upper part of the frame, we've got a little button here. You long press that and a series of lights will flash to let you know what the battery charge is, and then a different colored disc shows up for what level of power you're at from the motor. Just like on my Nomad and on the Discover, I highly recommend training the muscle memory that every time you start slowing down, you just immediately start turning the motor down with it, so that when you come to a complete stop, you're not surprised by extra motor power that you didn't need. If the display is a bit of a deal breaker for you, there will be a different flavor of the Thunder. The Thunder One that has an app compatibility, extra sensors in the frame, can communicate with your smartphone. And just like we have the cradle here, this bike does come with a little adhesive pad so you can lock your phone into the handlebars of the bike. That other flavor of the bike, of the Thunder One, is a little bit more expensive, but can send more of that road data to your phone, and it can track it just like the display on the Nomad and on the Discover. For my wife's needs though, I really wanted to keep this simple, and we really liked this experience where this was a bicycle first, and then she's starting to play with some of that motor assistance. She's not going to all the techier stuff because that's not really the kind of rider she is. And this is so nerdy, but it's kind of cool. This bike has built-in support for Apple's Find My networks, like Find My Phone. It's basically a giant AirTag on wheels. We can do a pretty good job of tracking this bicycle now. Anywhere other iOS or iPadOS devices might be, we can also get a handle on where this one is too. We discussed this a little bit in one of the previous Velotric videos, but bike theft is often so under-investigated that it often goes unreported. There's just no confidence that police will take bike thefts seriously, so people don't even report the crime when it happens to them. Obviously, I'd still recommend getting yourself a good lock. We hooked Marie up with another folding lock like I had on the Discover, just to do our due diligence in trying to protect this as an investment. But that built-in AirTag, built into the frame of the bike, it's not like you hid an AirTag like under your seat. Maybe someone will find it if they try and give your bike a once-over. There's no getting rid of it. It's built into this frame. Of course, that's all the techie stuff, but this is a bike, and how does it ride?
The ride on pavement is very, very smooth. I've been riding on this bike for about a week. Non-paved roads, it's still pretty smooth. It's not quite a mountain bike, so it's not going over those bumps just like butter, but it is.
You're feeling it.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. In general, it's been really great, especially figuring out how to use the power boost going up the hills. Once I figured out the hang of it, it was very smooth, very, very easy.
It's definitely not like a mountain bike or like that Nomad. We don't have a front suspension here, but that does also help keep weight low. When we're around on the roads, this is eminently well behaved. Overcoming the weight of a larger e-bike, you always feel like the motor is kind of jerking you or pulling you into that next stage of acceleration. This is so much better behaved. It eases you into that next tier.
The first e-bike I tried, even on the lowest setting, it felt like it was jerking you forward. This one, you put it on the lowest setting and pedaling, it just feels like an added boost. Like there's even a moment of is it even on? And as you're going up this steep hill that you would normally struggle with, you realize, yes, it is, but it doesn't feel like it's shoving you. It's not jerky. It really just uses your own momentum and helps push you forward.
The bike is so light, we're not hitting that motor very hard. Riding it around the neighborhood, going on some rides with our daughter. Obviously, we're not going on super long like marathon treks. We're still on our first full charge of this battery. Light recreational riding and riding around the neighborhood, that is beautiful performance. I gotta tell you, e-bikes have been such a fun addition for my channel. It's a part of this conversation that I'm getting more and more excited to share. Finding alternatives to commuting and travel and recreation, having some fun, but then also just for the practical things like getting some saddlebags for my fat tire and going to make a quick grocery store run without having to take my car. It's faster than taking my car. I'm getting a little fresh air as opposed to sitting in my car. It really has been a nice change to our overall lifestyle. And from test driving the Discover and the Nomad, which two bikes that I still really enjoy, this feels like another step in that accessibility conversation, being able to get someone up to speed even a little easier. Streamlined, lightweight, but it's a little more bike-like while still bringing the battery and the motor, the accessibility of those Class 2 e-bikes. I totally understand some folks on my channel might side-eye a less powerful bike that costs close to the price of a more powerful motor on an e-bike. I'm sure a lot of us are power junkies, and we do that with all kinds of other gadgets too. Like, I want the most powerful processor in my phone for the lowest possible price. But road testing the Thunder One ST here, I would not discount the benefits of riding a nice Class 1 bicycle. What this bike might lack in terms of pure torque and horsepower, it more than makes up in weight, in security, in new technology, and I think in style. A major thank you to Velotric for continuing to sponsor these conversations, looking at different types of bikes, and I will have a couple other videos out soon on things like accessories, ways to spruce up the gadget side of our rides, and maybe even a little fashion and apparel as I'm breaking in my new shorts. This is a super fun long-term conversation for me, so there's gonna be a lot more coming to this channel soon. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel. All the support lately has been absolutely fantastic. Those of you who are clicking on links, maybe shopping a new e-bike off of one of the links in the description below my videos. If you're catching my home site, somegadgetguy.com, or if you're joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/somegadgetguy. This list is basically the coolest collection of tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at somegadgetguy on the Twitters and the Twitch. Not so much on the Facebooks or the Instagrams, but now a little bit more on the Mastodons and the Flickrs. And I will catch you all on the next video.